Bonjour.
Bonjour à tous et bienvenue dans ce nouvel épisode du Digital Download. Oops, sorry. Good afternoon, good morning, and good day, wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now globally syndicated on TuneIn Radio through IDGR, the world's #1 business talk, news, and strategy radio network. Today on the Digital Download, we're doing something different. We are drawing the map to your next sale, literally. We know the traditional go-to-market playbook is broken. Cold calls, emails, and landing pages are hitting a closed gate, delivering success rates at just 3 to 5%. So why are we still trying to force the way in? But before we kick off the discussion, and what's going to be probably quite an exciting show, let's go around the set and introduce everyone. While we're doing this, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them, and have them join us. We strive to make the Digital Download an interactive experience, and audience participation, as you know, is highly encouraged. Tracy, do you want to kick us off, please?
Hello, everyone. Tracy Borson, founder of TLB Coaching and Events, a proud partner of DLA Ignite. And I love getting some pens and paper out, drawing some stuff. I feel like people don't draw enough maps when it comes to marketing. And when we're talking about go-to-market, there's a very important destination that we're trying to get to, which is people buying stuff. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this today.
And Tracy, can I just the new headphone lights?
I have the headphone lights.
Yeah.
Actually, I've had them for a while. I feel like it depends on how my screen gets cropped. But
so you mean we eventually see it? It's been there for ages.
Apparently, today's the day.
But it looks great indeed.
Thank
you. So excellent, Tim.
Welcome. My name's Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm famous for writing the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers.
Excellent. Adam.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Gray. I'm Tim's business partner and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And when you first presented it in this way, Bertrand, excuse me, I thought this was an incredibly insightful and simple way of describing what can be seen as being quite a complex idea. And I think that for many people that are trying to kind of solve this conundrum that is prospecting and getting conversations going with people, they're not able to step back from the activities and see the big picture and what they're trying to achieve. So I think this is a really cool way of presenting it in a way that they probably haven't seen before. So thank you.
Well, no pressure, of course. And anyway, it's only the four of us.
It's only the four of us. Nobody watches this show.
Exactly. All right. So thank you all. And I suggest that we get started, and maybe before...
So
what are you?
What are you going to do? What's the context for this, Bertrand?
Exactly. So the context for this is very simple. You know, we're oftentimes, as Adam mentioned, we're trying to talk about what we do and the way we do it. But sometimes, even if we are trying our best, that remains kind of, that sounds quite a bit complex or a bit long or almost unachievable. So I thought I would give it a try and try to explain that in a very simple fashion. And the best way to do that is to use drawings. So I am going to try to explain in a simple fashion what we're trying to achieve and why it is probably different from what is commonly accepted under the term of social selling. So any questions? Any comments before we get started?
Tove basically says this topic is really great. This is actually Fernram's strategy in going into a new market.
Okay. Well, I thought we were only the four of us, so now I've got
There's five.
a bit of pressure.
And
Five.
these five.
And
Maybe
then
there's
there
other
were 5.
Okay, so let's go for it. And what we, the best way I could start is really say this is you trying to get in touch with your ICP. ICP stands for Tracy.
ideal client profile.
Ideal client profile. So that's a role in an organization. Someone you have something to talk about with. So that's the reality. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get something going with your ICP, whether it's a conversation or an interaction. But and so you're trying to reach your ICP in different ways. And what becomes obvious over time is that between you and your ICP, at least that's probably everybody's experience, there is a gate, and that gate most of the time is closed. And how do we know that the gate is closed? Is very simple, because if you try to place I'm not a great drawer, but this is a phone.
You're an amazing
Try to
drawer.
place a phone call.
It's the
Or
old
if you
school phone, folks.
It's got a
Or
cord
if
and
you
a
With the
trap.
cord.
or if you try to send an email, or if you try to get your ICP to visit your landing page, you probably are experiencing, just like everybody else, a 3 to 5% conversion rate. Best case scenario, right? And that
Which
is,
means 95 to 97% of the things that you do are not accomplished.
hit the door. Hit the
Failure
door.
rate.
It does hit the door. All right, so that's what we do, and that's what we do in the semi-digital world, let's put it this way. But in the digital world, we do have different elements around your ICP, and the first one is probably, especially if we talk about LinkedIn, but any social network, they do have a profile, which is great, because we know, and everybody can in their country get that number usually, but I know it for France, so I'll give it for France. 56% in France of the workforce do have a LinkedIn profile, and they roughly spend an hour per month on this profile. That's on average. Okay, so the closer you get to functions like marketing, communication, or IT, supply chain, etc., that number goes obviously up, and we're probably more around an hour per week than an hour per month. So good news.
Which is also, sorry, can I just throw in something here, Bertrand? Because
sure.
If we know that type of thing about our ICP, I think it's also interesting. I talk to a lot of people who will spend like 4 hours a day on LinkedIn, right? And you're like, okay, well, if your people are on LinkedIn, maybe best case scenario, an hour a week, there's like this, if I'm showing up 4 hours a day and a whole bunch of my people are not there, there's like another potential for like a bunch of opportunities that aren't like leading to that are equally throwing stuff against the door. So just something I think people can think about in terms of, this isn't about like you being online at the same hour that they are online, but if that's how much time they are spending, if you're spending like a substantially more amount of time, then the time gap is also potential waste.
I think also from what Bertrand has said there about 3% of people kind of notice your posts, you got 97% failure rate, or at best scenario is you've got 5% success rate. So if we reframe that and think, if you decided you wanted to be an accountant and you sat your professional accountancy exam 19 times and failed, and then on the 20th time you'd pass, you would probably have already arrived at the decision that that was not the career for you, wouldn't you? If you'd asked 20 people to marry you and 19 of them had said no, it's like these are failure rates that would destroy people in most careers and instances. So why do we assume that you get 7% success rate? Wow, look, we're incredibly successful. You're not. You're still failing more than 9 out of every 10 times. So it's just worth thinking about that, isn't it?
Well, and I think, because there's no 100%, nobody's getting 100% connection rates or 100% close rates or anything like that. But it's also like to add a layer of framing to that. I'm like, why are we assuming that this is fine? Because everybody's just told us 3 to 5%. Like, am I fine with that? And then also, like, where along the path are you measuring that, right? So if I invite 19 people to marry me and 19 of them say no, then, like, first of all, if I haven't learned anything about myself or what I've been doing in that time frame, what am I doing? Like, there's some things that are possible to adjust in that. But also, like, if you want to ask a lot of people on dates, that's fine, right? Like, ask a lot of people on dates and then see who accepts your invitation. But then, like, be a little bit more cognizant about what's happening in the rest of that relationship building chain. And maybe you'll be able to increase that percentage.
And probably something we want to add is that this hour, or anyway, this time is spent here, is not seen as an interruption, which is slightly different from what you're doing here with calls, emails, and trying to get people on your landing pages. You are actually interrupting them in their daily work, and that's probably the reason why the result is so low, by the way. So if I move forward, the next element is that it happens that your ICP not only have a profile, but they do also have friends.
Most of them, anyways.
On social. Well, most of them. Actually,
if your people don't have any friends, then maybe they're not your people.
On average, they've got 1,000 friends linked to their profile. That's an average.
Let's just be honest. They have 1,000 connections. It's not 1,000 friends, but it's 1,000 people in front of whom your reach could expand if you were actually connected to that person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then eventually, and that's the advanced course, there would be every now and again posting content. So that might be their corporate content that they are reposting most of the time. There might be pictures of them with their teams at their kickoff. Might be
Harvard Business Review.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a new job.
Analyses of their industry, etc. But that's quite interesting, and we'll see why later into this. So that's a little bit of the landscape on your ICP profile, on your ICP side, and of course on your side, well, you do have the same. You have a nice profile. We can discuss the term nice. Usually it's kind of a very formal profile, very corporate oriented, very serious profile. Talks about what you do.
From a business point of view.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you do also have, you do also have friends. Apologies. You do also have friends. Probably the same number. And you also, every now and again, release some content. Whether it's, again, original content, etc. So that's the landscape on basically any social media. Let me just remove that. Whoops. There we go. All right. So one of the things that most people would recommend you do on social to get to your ICP is to use emails, for instance, especially if you're on LinkedIn and there is a whole business around this. You know what? The best way to get to your ICP, because they are there, they have their profile, is to send an email to their profile. People would do that, probably would recognize that the outcome is roughly the same than anything else that you would have done in different so far, that is calls, sending proper emails, or trying to bring people to your landing page, knowing that most of the time also emails have the same purpose, to bring you back to a corporate page.
Hey,
Actually,
Bertrand, here, can we just talk too about, because I think everybody's experienced, probably everyone's experienced, well, I don't know if everyone gets cold calls anymore, but like, we've gotten the cold emails. We know people have these like download this and just like go to my website and download this, and then I collect your email and blah, blah, blah. And then you get in mails and all of these things. But I think a lot of the times too, there's like the content within those things is important, right? Like the coldness is, like you mentioned, it's an interruption. So already you're coming in and you've like interrupted someone's day, but then you also come in with like, I'm somebody who knows how to update your SEO and you probably need that. So I'm going to just sell it to you. It's like a pitch immediately. And I think the thing that's interesting about that is when you think about cold emails or you think about in mails, people go into it like, I have one shot, right? Like I have one shot to like make this happen. So I got to put all of the things in one email and I got to like close you by the end of the email. But if we go back to like the dating example, right? And Adam uses this example all the time, right? Like you don't ask someone for a date, and then as soon as they say yes, you're like, want to marry me, without even having the date, right? Like you don't do that, but we do that in these formats. And so it's interesting because Tove is saying here that they do cold calls. And I know, actually, I have a couple of people that I know who do cold calls and have a really fun time doing cold calls, and cold calls work for them because they have a fun time doing cold calls. But it's like, I think there's also this like, this belief that we have to like get everything in one touch, and therefore we slam everything into an in-mail message and we'll send 1,000. And even then, like if you send 1,000, I do not think most people are getting a 3% yes to that when it's like that one step. Like, this is everything and decide today if you want to buy it, right? Like I would say the close ratio is even lower than that. So I also just wanted to call out, like, I think there is actually not a terrible way to do emails. It's not a terrible way to do emails, but when we think about how they're commonly used as a like one touch sales opportunity. And if we roll that back and say like, hey, do we believe a one-touch sales opportunity exists? Oh, no? Mm-hmm. Okay, why are we doing that?
Yeah, but I think the problem here, Tracy, is that most people, so you've just said you wouldn't try to go from first introduction to purchase in one single piece of communication, because that makes no sense at all. And people watching this show might well think to themselves, well, we don't do that either. You know, we're really clever about how we do this, and we try to move them along a little bit. But the problem is that there's not anyone on this call that doesn't get 50 emails a day, 49 of which are emails that go from, hi, just let me tell you that I'm, I don't know, a beautician and I can do facelifts. So come on down to my place and I'll do a Botox program or whatever. And it goes from that first introduction, no proof of credibility, no relationship, straight through to trying to close the deal. And because of that, even if I were to send you cold a piece of incredibly insightful content, something that would educate you and empower you, the chances are you wouldn't read it, because the 49 that you'd had previously would be ones where literally you can't click the spam button fast enough. So the issue here is that even if you are doing it right, because everybody else is doing it wrong, you're tarred with that brush. And as a cold outreach, it's fundamentally broken.
I think the other thing, and Bertrand will go on and show this, that there's this, in life you can decide to do certain things. So, for example, most of us don't travel by horse and carts anymore, because we actually found that a car is more efficient and more effective. Now, a horse and cart actually is far more environmentally friendly, et cetera, but we don't do that because of the efficiency and the effectiveness. And I think what Bertrand's going to show is actually that if you're actually sending emails, you're sending emails, you're making cold calls, it's an act of self-harm, because what you're doing is that you're using the horse and cart and not the more effective and efficient method to actually do what you want to do.
Well, there's one thing as well. In addition to everything you've said, is that the first thing that you will see, whether you get an invite or an email, etc., is the profile headline of the people sending this. And we know, because LinkedIn has made a study on this, that 76% of your ICPs, or at least the people you're targeting, will not go beyond your headline. So if it sells, you know what, I'm in sales, I'm a damn good salesman.
Or woman.
Or woman.
Salesperson.
You are not increasing your chances that the message gets open. Actually, that even people visit your profile or click on your profile, because that will be the end of the discussion. So
I think that's also actually important for industries that have historically a bad reputation, right? So I think if most of us think about like car salespeople, right, you're like, leave me alone. I just want to like look at this car. They get that bad rap. I also think that like financial advisors, people who sell insurance, right? Like if you get like, I represent World Financial Group, like right on your profile, people are like, nope, you're going to try and sell me insurance and I don't want insurance.
But that's the other thing, isn't it? That people often in their headline, they define who they are by their job role in their company. So, I'm head of whatever at whatever. And the assumption is that the whatever bit opens the door for you. Right. So Tim and I and Bertrand all worked at Oracle. Before I started at Oracle, I didn't really know who Oracle was. I was amazed when I was at Oracle, like, oh my God, it's like the biggest tech company in the world. I was amazed that how many other people didn't know who Oracle was. In terms of the product that individuals within business actually engage with, probably that would be Salesforce in a B2B environment more than any other company. Amazing how many of the people that I know at Salesforce say they phone up and they say, hi, it's such and such from Salesforce. And the person on the end of the phone says, where?
I get this.
Salesforce.
Yeah. A lady the other day, I was like, did you ask? She had a question and I didn't know. So I was like, did you ask ChatGPT? And she was like, what? And I was like, for real? Okay, yeah, good. People don't know all of these companies.
Yeah, it's a common bias that you think that people know what you know.
Yeah.
So there's also something that we hear quite often as a way to kind of warm up a little bit the relationship, is that you would actually go and comment on your ICP content. But for the exact same reason the exact same reason than before, if you go and comment and you're no one here, you've got zero relationship with your target, you're back to square one, which is, looking at your headline, am I going to open the profile? And the answer is no, because it's not like many things, there is a timing for this. And just going and going for a comment on content of your target, if you've not built any relationship before, you'll get the exact same outcome. So you won't get where you want to go, where you want to get. Sorry. And the reason I think we all need to acknowledge that there is, in a similar way, let's say a border,
A disconnect.
A disconnect between your ecosystem and your target ecosystem. And I think that's exactly what these numbers are demonstrating day after day. If you try to send an email, if you try to comment onto your target content, hoping that they're going to visit your profile and ultimately accept your invitation, you're probably on the wrong path.
I think
So
there's
what
a really interesting component here when we look at the mindset people come into these interactions with, right? So if you come in and be like, I gotta sell, here's my profile of people and I have to sell them things. And then you have this way you come in versus I love what you said about connecting the ecosystem. How many people are actually thinking about it that way? I have an ecosystem of solutions. These guys have an ecosystem of potential problems. I don't know for sure they have a problem because I don't know them yet. But what's the benefit in connecting the ecosystems, and how might I approach this from a benefit of ecosystem connection point of view versus sell a thing?
So
it feels better to me. I don't
exactly.
know.
I'm glad you're making that comment, Tracy, because I think that's really the bottom line here. So, what is it that we think is a better approach, or what is the other way? It starts with your profile, and one of the things that we believe you should be doing is make your profile a little bit more friendly, attractive, approachable. And how do you make that happen? Well, you need to look approachable. That's approachable. You may want to have a little bit of nice content on your shelves. You may want to have to tell a little bit about who you are.
Guitars and
that will always work.
And here I've got something here.
You can never have enough guitars.
You know what? This is the last thing I draw because it's quite small. That's a coffee machine. You need to have a coffee machine. What is it that you do the first time you meet someone at a customer site? Before you even took business?
You buy them a coffee.
You buy them a coffee. And you have a nice chat around.
Or if you're on site, everyone has coffee machines now, right?
Exactly.
You go in and people are like, would you like a coffee? And I get really difficult and then tell them I only drink tea. But yes, I would love one.
So you want to have a nice profile where we feel safe, where we want to spend some time, even potentially spend some time on the coffee machine. And that is a much better start for you to then move to the second step, which is rather than trying to go straight to your ICP, you may want to go and try to network a little bit with their contacts, with their friends. The way you do this is obviously not by pitching. You do this by being truly willing to have conversations, discussions.
Well, and I think one of the
get
things
to know
that,
each other.
Yeah, and so one of the things I always tell people about their profile is that it should look like a mirror of you. So if you're standing in the mirror and you're looking at yourself, you see your reflection. And if your profile reflects that same kind of reflection, then the people who end up on your profile will see the real you. And so many conversations, if anybody just takes a minute and thinks about where were some of the best conversations started, it was over guitars, or it was about coffee, or it was a quote that you shared, or something that was just pretty innocuous, right? It wasn't part of a sales process. It was just part of somebody being themselves, having pink headphones, right? This is the best conversation starter I've ever had, by the way. So that's not to say that you should get pink headphones, but the point is that the things that you start conversations on do not have to be groundbreaking, identify someone's problem in the very first sentence conversations, right? They're door openers. So what are door openers? Do you play a specific sport? Do you like to spend time outside? People love to connect about dogs, right? People who talk about dogs just love talking about dogs, right? It doesn't have to be so, I might even hazard to say it doesn't even have to be that strategic in terms of that, right? It needs to be strategic in terms of showing yourself to people, but it doesn't have to be oh, I'm going to talk about my nerd movies because I want to connect with people who also like nerd movies. I will tell you, I have Loki behind me on the side. And anybody who I talk to who can identify that is Loki, I'm yes. We are going to be friends, and I don't know if we're going to do business together or I'm going to do business with your boss or whatever, but we can talk about stuff. And that's the opening we want, that we can talk about stuff, that people feel we can talk about stuff.
Exactly. And the reason why you want to do that on your profile because when you're going to send an invite, what you're going to get as a result, if your headline doesn't talk about how great you are as a salesperson, you're gonna have views. So anyway, you're bringing people in to visit your profile. So you're gonna have a lot of visits, and what we know is that if you have the appropriate profile, you'll get between 30 and 60% acceptance rate on your invitations. And that is a great starting point. Why? Because all of a sudden, I'll try to do that.
So what you're saying, Bertrand, is instead of going to people cold and getting a 3 to 5%, just you're going to people cold and getting a 30 to 60%.
Yes.
Wow, that's a factor of 10 difference.
Exactly.
So if you wanted to 10x your lead generation.
Well, in fact, it's even better than that, isn't it? Because if you send somebody cold outreach, you send it once and then they block you. If you send somebody a connection request, you send it once, and if they accept, if they're in the 30 to 60% that accept, then everything you publish, they're going to see. So if you publish 100 things during the course of the year, they're going to see 100 pieces of your content rather than the one email or cold outreach closing communication that got you blocked.
And one of the things that's happening at that stage, and I'm trying to visually represent this, is that all of a sudden you've broken through you've actually broken through the ecosystem. So what you're starting to do basically is create an opening, an open door, or a connection. You're starting to build a connection between the two ecosystems, because you've got your ICP friends who are actually becoming your friends, and that's where there is a little bit of a that's a great step forward, I would say.
Well, and it's also because I don't know if anybody else looks at this, but I always look at this when I get a connection request. I see like who do you know that I know, right? And do I trust those people, right? So if I implicitly trust even one of those people, I usually will give people the benefit of the doubt and be like, oh, hey, you know Tim, I know Tim, we both like Tim, that's good. Enough for me. But also when you get one of the really powerful things, so this happened to me and I was like, I don't even know how it's possible that we're connected to this many people and we're not connected. I was like, it just LinkedIn actually popped up the profile and they're like, you might know this person. And I was like, oh, curious, why do they think that? We are connected to 641 of the same people. And I was like, oh, yeah, then we should probably know each other.
Yeah, well, we should probably
How are we not connected already? And then you look at
basically you, Tracy.
Right. but then it's such an easy outreach too, right? Because then I'm the one who like, hey, so we have this many people in common and I figure we should probably be connected. And then like you can send a request like that and people are like, yeah, you're probably right. Like that, and that's not even, that goes way above 60%, right? Your likelihood of connecting with someone who's connected with that many people that you're connected to is like almost 100%. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are now into a nice new situation, which is also interesting because all of a sudden our new friends are exposed to our content. And that is that's also quite interesting because then they can, if our content is interesting, they can react to that content. Wow, that's a little one.
What if and what do people do sometimes with content they really like? They share it.
They share it. They repost it.
That'd be crazy if your friends happen to share your content with your ideal client. How convenient.
What happens? What happens, Tracy?
Wow, that would be like magic. That'd be like magic, Tracy.
All of a sudden,
like we can't guarantee any of these things, right? Like I can't guarantee that the person who me and them have 641 mutual connections actually accepts my invitation. Can't guarantee that, but you are just like increasing the likelihood. Yeah, Lux surface area.
Yeah.
So much and like very easily, right? This is the thing that when we get into these habits, and I feel sometimes for people too, you might be like looking at this, and if this is a fairly new exploration into this process, then you might be like, oh, but I have to do that, and I have to update my profile, and then it might turn into this like a list of things that you have to do. But the point is like that this flow just starts to happen. So yeah, you got to update your profile, and then you're going to find a way to like easily update your profile. And then you have to like find a way to connect with people, but then you're going to find an easy way to connect with people. And then it feels easy. And then you're going to create content, and you're going to find an easy way to create content. And then all of this just like cycles together in a beautiful way that just puts you in front of ideal people. And
that's
like, so good.
Yeah. So how do we visually translate this? Is this way? What happens is that over time, your content is put in front of your ICP. Did you know that 80% of your LinkedIn feed is made of your network reactions? So if your friends if your ICP friends start to react to your content and like it, and then all of a sudden your content is put in front of your ICP, I would say that you are gaining influence.
Very minimally, you're gaining exposure, which is very different to what Adam shared in that first example.
Let's start with exposure. So
Yeah.
you're getting exposure, and if you do that on the long run, or at least regularly, it may turn into influence. Then obviously at that time, I think, because I said everything is about timing, at that time you may be relevant to comment on your ICP content, react, comment, etc. Because this way you also get another form of exposure. And at that time it will work because you are no longer a stranger. You have, you have mutual friends. Some of your ICP friends are reacting to your content, and potentially reposting it. So you are slowly but surely. I think what you're doing is basically you have opened something here. You have connected these two ecosystems, and what you have ultimately done is what you are in the process of doing. I apologize, hopefully this will work here. Come on.
Technology.
Yeah, don't talk to me about it. I know. That will work better. What you are... Whoops. Oh, that is going to be a challenge. Come on. Okay. That's the demo effect. I've been in pre-sales for years. Usually it does work.
Never work with children, animals, or computers.
Here we are. So you are creating you know what I'm writing here?
A relationship? Weird.
You are building a relationship.
Wow.
Now,
Isn't that great?
What's really interesting is that every sales leader that I have ever spoken to says they want to have a relationship-based sale, and yet none of them, hardly any of them, behave or get their teams to behave in such a way that supports that statement. And this absolutely is a way to support that, isn't it? And demonstrate, leading by example.
Have you finished, Bertrand?
No, because what happens once you have created a relationship? All of a sudden, the door opens, and you may be in a position to get what you have always wanted to get. That is a conversation with your ideal customer profile. And that is what you will get. So first of all, that conversation will be, probably a longer conversation than the one that you're trying to get with your.
So what you're saying is that if you're asking for a conversation to pitch, you're getting 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or something like that. But this is getting you a longer conversation.
On average, you get 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay.
Every sales pitch is calibrated on 3 minutes and 30 seconds because after that, the customer hangs up. So you'd get a bit.
So you've increased your ability to have a conversation with the prospect from 3 minutes 30 seconds to 30 minutes.
To 30 minutes. And I think the most important part of this is, how much do you get? How much time do you need to spend to get to that level? is 20 to 25 minutes per day.
So
you can
I
make
think
up your
that's a
mind.
really, really important number, because I think a lot of times when you say build relationships, people think about personal relationships that they built for 4 years before they asked someone to marry them, right? And then you're like, I don't have time to build relationships for 4 years, right? Like, I need to sell something this quarter. But this is not like this. First of all, should not take 4 hours a day. If you're spending that much time, there's some optimization there that's possible, and you should talk to somebody who's in this call right now. But this is about doing the things with intention, right? And going
Exactly.
for like building relationships by doing the things. Like, that's the result of doing the things. If the things you're doing aren't building the relationships, stop it and do different things, right? And then move it to a conversation. If things aren't moving to a conversation, what's wrong with that, right? And conversations with people. And when we also look at those conversations, like, what does it what do you want to feel in a conversation, right? Do you want to feel that someone just came in and pitched in your face and didn't listen to anything that you said? You're going to break all of that work that you just did, right? So, like, please don't do that. The conversation is, have a conversation, be curious, ask some questions, like, reveal something about yourself, like demonstrate your expertise instead of selling your expertise, right? Like, this is something you can do when you get 30 minutes instead of 30 seconds, right? So if we're going to put all of this work into like building up our relationships, let's use our conversation to also build the relationship, instead of just saying, I did all this work and now I've converted the conversation now to a one and done sales conversation as well. And then now my ICP is going to tell their friends, who are now also my friends, that like, I'm just trying to sell here. And then all of a sudden my friends become not my friends. And then I like break everything.
So Bertrand, have
So
you finished?
there was a comment from Tove, and I just want to say that exactly. You know, the point here is just to reproduce what we do in face-to-face. But that's the way to do it digitally. I think that's the exact mapping of. There's nothing mind-blowing in this, right? It's just doing digitally what we do, you know, in person. And why would we behave differently when we go digital? You know,
Have you finished the whiteboard now, Bertrand?
I have finished the whiteboard.
Can we give Bertrand a round of applause, please?
I love this whiteboard. Looks great.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
Excellent, perfect.
So what you're saying in summary is, if because a lot of people say that social selling takes a long time. What you're saying is that you can do this all within 20-25 minutes a day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what results are you getting from this? Because there's a lot of sales leaders that say that social selling is just playing on social, and there's a lot of people that are playing on social and getting nothing at all.
Well, you get you know, currently I'm sitting on average on five to 7, 8 meaningful conversations per week.
So you're getting 5 to 7 meaningful conversations a week. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
By doing this.
By doing this. And
I would
by the
also
way,
like to
and by the
say-
way, a few customers as well.
Well, and I think this is the thing, right? So first of all, we don't decide who's in the market at what time, right? This is an exercise in expanding your surface area. And so you have a greater likelihood of talking to somebody who's in market at the given time. So sometimes, like, this is what I do. I love this methodology. Thank you to DLA Ignite for creating it. I think it is easy and awesome and authentic. And this is what I do. And I constantly have 10 slots a week for conversations. And that's not including like client conversations that are part of this meaningful experience. And I am constantly booked out 2 weeks in advance. So I have 10 calls a week and I'm always booked out 2 weeks in advance. and I don't spend more than 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn. And it takes practice, right? Like if you're creating content, then maybe it feels like it takes a long time to create content today. And then like that's a practice. So you get better at it and then it gets faster. Who you're reaching out to and how you define that and all of those things. These are practice things. So the more you practice, the faster it becomes. So the 20 to 25 minutes is a goal, might start at an hour and might work back, but it's definitely not 4 hours. It's definitely not 4 hours a day. Yeah. And I think the important thing is for me, what I love is like being surrounded by conversation, right? So having all of those conversations, like I schedule 2 30-minute conversations a day. This is not a lot of time in your day either, right? So like, if this is how we want to sell and we want to be in these conversations, how do we structure that in our day to make that fit? And we allow ourselves to have this like pretty constant reminder that the things that we're doing are generating conversations. And then there's things to learn in the conversations. Are those the right people? Maybe they're not the right people. Maybe I need to tweak how I'm having conversations. Maybe I want to tweak my content, right? But all of these things teach us and we evolve and we iterate it till we get to the point where you're like, yeah, wow, like now this just feels like a pretty consistent, not like a firehouse of leads that all of a sudden I can't handle because I went viral and now I can't like talk to 100 people at a time, but this like really nice, consistent flow. And I don't know, it just like, it feels good. And I think for the people who know me, like authenticity is my jam. I will not do anything that doesn't feel like Tracy would do that. And the thing I love about this is if you take the idea and you layer on your personal brand, then there's like your way that is available within this. So this is not about you building my network. It's about you building your network. It's your network for your purposes and in the way you like, right? To get the vibe that you want. That's the point. And that is the underlying fire. And then this is the like structured doing, right? The things to do to allow that to just begin to flow. And I mean, I am so glad that I learned it.
So Tracy, so what we do is we summarize is that here's a great way to get a constant flow of leads.
Yes. And I think that's what people want, right? Like we're not here promising that like that consistent flow of leads is going to turn into 100% business. No one has 100% because we don't control when people are in market, but it has like that consistency, and it just, you get rid of that like chasing, right? You're now not chasing leads, you just have them. And that feels really different from a sales perspective.
Bertrand.
Thank you, Tracy, for this. I have, we're almost overrunning. So last picture, our newsletter. If you want to know more about our shows, come on. Last shows, next shows. Please use the QR code on screen, or visit us at digitaldownload/newsletter. With that, thank you all. I wish you a great weekend, and we'll see each other next Friday. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.